Good evening and welcome once again to this edition of the Coaches Show with head coach Paul Koontz, head coach of the boys varsity Preston Knight team in Kingwood. And Preston High has a lot to be proud of with their student athletes. It might not show on the overall scorecard right now, Coach, but you got some hard work going on your team. Now, when last we met, you were getting set to go up against highly ranked, I believe it was 4th ranked in AA in the state of West Virginia, and maybe 12th or 14th overall, somewhere in there, East Fairmont. And the Bees, I don't care if they're not ranked, are always a tough opponent. But your team went into the Beehive, worked with some diligence, kept their heads about them, and came out of there with a 10-point victory. That's a tough thing to do, and congratulations to the Knights on pulling that one off.
Yeah, I was real proud of our team that night. We started out a little slow. We got down 10-0, and boy, it was not looking real good early, and called a timeout and made a little bit of adjustments, but probably mainly with a challenge to the players. You know, you're better than this, and so get out there and we'll make some adjustments, see what we can do. And we ended up at the end of the first quarter 16-16. So and then from then on, we had a 12-point lead at one point, and they cut it back to 2, and we built it back up. So we was in a lot of different situations that we had to battle back from. But very proud of our team to come out and get a big victory over a highly ranked team.
Yeah, that's always an exciting game. It's a tough place to play. The Beehive is tough on incoming teams the same way we want to believe the Castle is tough, especially when we have a good crowd, is on incoming teams. And the Knights, to overcome that home court advantage that East Fairmont had, and the momentum that they started the game with, and put them in enough disarray, because I know they like to do the same kind of things that have been difficult for Preston. They like to address defense very aggressively. They always have. That's a key with them, and they usually have some pretty good shooters and usually have a pretty good inside presence. I know as that game turned out, the big presence inside was Jake Livengood. He did very, very well on an individual basis, but in just lifting the team, and put a lot of it on his shoulders late.
Yeah, we had a great inside-outside deal going. Jake took over there and a little bit in the second quarter, but the third quarter really took over. Ended up with 26 points, and then on the outside, Andrew Lance ended up with 21 points. Whenever they decided to collapse on Jake, we just started kicking it out, and Andrew was making some shots, and Corey Powles was chipping in, making some shots. So we really got into the flow of what our offense is all about. We always try inside first, and if that doesn't work, we kick it out and try to a lot of ball movement, a lot of ball reversal. We want to move the defense before we get that take that shot, so we can get a better look. And it really worked well. And to be honest with you, that was a little turning point for our offense. Ever since that game, we've done an awful lot better. We're scoring up in the 60-point range now. So that night was close to, it was 69, almost 70. So for us, that we're getting there.
Yeah, take us inside the locker room for a moment. At the conclusion of that game, did you see the kind of excitement in the eyes of your players that you've been looking for up to now this season?
Yeah, that was the most energized we've been all year. We had a good 3 or 4 minutes in there of celebrating that win, and it was a tough one to get. It was a surprise win. I went in there just thinking, well, if we can compete with these guys, I mean, they're ranked 4th in the state. We're in their home court. If we can just be competitive tonight, that might be a moral victory. But no, we played to our capabilities and really did well. It's the things that teams do to win. They develop good habits, and good habits will win. And we're still breaking the losing habits. And every game we play, we break a little more of those losing habits, and we gain habits to try to win a basketball game. So the whole cycle's got to be turned, and that was a very pivotal point in the season for us to get that win.
Yeah. You come back home, everybody's excited to come into the castle and see really the next two games that you were going to play. Now you play Grafton and you play Philip Barber.
Mm-hmm.
Grafton, a team that comes in this year probably doing a little better than they have in a while, but still they don't look that strong and they don't look that big, and it certainly looked on paper like coming off of that big victory on the road at East Fairmont, that this was a situation that the Knights would find themselves in a winnable game at the end, and certainly be able to get a little streak going. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it looked from our perspective like what did Preston in was difficulty getting to the line and then poor free throw shooting when you got there.
Yeah, I think we lost that game by 5 points, and we missed 14 foul shots. So, that's something that we've kind of been up and down on. So, we were getting to the line, we just couldn't make them. We wasn't shooting real well outside. We hit a few key buckets, but then again at the end of the game, and this is what I've tried to make sure. In that last quarter, we put ourselves to play for a win, and again, that's something that wasn't there. That's now starting to be there. We're in these basketball games in the fourth quarter. We just got to figure out how deep we have to reach down to perform to actually win these games, and it was a tough loss to take because we felt we could win it, but it wasn't our night at the foul line basically, and that doomed us.
Yeah. Especially with another tough match, right on the horizon. You come back and you play the Philip Barber Colts. Now, the Philip Barber Colts are a very good team this year. They're doing quite well. They come into the castle, sort of a run and gun style if you let them. I thought the Knights did a good job controlling the tempo through much of that game, and again, had pretty good opportunity in the fourth quarter, and it slips away.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Barber comes in ranked third in the state AA and actually seventh in the entire state overall. So the only two teams that have beat them is Fairmont Senior, the number one team in the state, undefeated, and Mingo Central. So, they've only lost to two very good teams and pretty well handled everybody else. And
Coach, if you tried to find strong teams to play, could you line up much better of a murderer's row than the teams that you've played this season?
I tell you, the Big Ten Conference is the best conference in the state this year, top to bottom. There are some of the toughest teams out there. So yeah, every night we take the court. We're going to be playing a top-ranked team in the top 10 in their either class or in the state. So, with that game, we wanted to put ourselves again in a position to compete. And daggone, with about 1:40 to go, it's a 4-point ball game. Not only are we competing, we have an opportunity to win. But we just, again, struggled a couple times at the foul line, and we had a few more turnovers than we liked. But that effort that night, what I'm really proud of is our fans that was there. We got beat, and I was going off the court. There must have been 100 people standing up clapping. That I have not seen that at Preston High. So that was appreciative, and the boys appreciated. And it was for such thing as a good loss. That was it. It was a definite moral victory. It boosted our confidence that people are still behind us.
Folks who watch our broadcast, the game casts, and the coaches show, know that both Terry Cochran and I are big cheerleaders for the Knights, and we try to call the game fairly as we see it from both sides. And I know folks from these other teams are watching these games on the internet, and hopefully they are enjoying the coverage that we give them, and we try to be fair. But if anything, we have encouraged people to get out here, support this team, get behind the Knights, and just come out and enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy the way it feels to watch a team play. When they play well, the Knights are really, really a fun team to be in the gym watching. If you're a fan and you haven't made it out yet, come to Kingwood. I don't care if you're a Preston Knight fan, if you're a boys basketball fan, come out and watch and enjoy. And then you can see the delayed telecast, or you can see it on demand on our YouTube channel anytime. But I would encourage folks to get out here and sit in the seats at Preston High. And I call it old time atmosphere now. We've got a really good core fan base. I'd like to challenge the students. Sometimes the Castle Crazy section's a little thin. I'd like to see the kids pack it, fill it up again, come out here and root, and that will come, I believe, as the Knights continue to improve and get better. By no means is the season over. It's tough at 3-12 to look at that. I'm sure you have, some seniors that are a little bit discouraged and wish that the record would be a lot better in their final year. But at the same time, it looks like the team is growing in the right direction. Do the coaches feel like that's happening?
Yeah, we knew this was going to be a tough year going in. And not only another new coach, but a new system of offense to learn. A new system of how we do defense, and a new system of what to expect. And it's been tough on some kids, and but by and large, they're buying in. Each week, the hard work will pay off. We're going to try to peak. Right now, we're kind of resetting some goals. We want to peak for tournament time and try to make some noise in our section tournament. It's going to be an uphill battle, but you know what? We're going to work on it. Worked on some strategies today, knowing we're going to play University or Morgantown, and you got to prepare for each one of them just a little bit different, but not a whole lot. So we're starting already to prepare for things like that, and we're going to test some things out. We have a big week coming up this week. Wednesday, we're at home. We've got Lincoln. And then Friday night,
another really good team.
Yeah.
The Lincoln Cougars are not to be trifled with.
Yeah, they're well coached, and they're down a little bit, but for Lincoln, they're always competitive. And Friday night, we go to Robert C. Byrd, a very improving team, and then Saturday night, we got the 5th-ranked AAA team in the state, the 9-2 Wheeling Park team. So. Big week
at Wheeling Park,
Wheeling
and that's
Park.
Again, tough place to go play a ball game when you're the visitors there. Let's just say they really like to yell a lot in the stands. I've been there and seen it. It's not unlike a visiting team coming in to play the Mountaineers. They really pack them in at Park. And they are loud and boisterous, and they try to get on you from the warm-up right on. And kids got to be aware of that and just have a thick skin and go out there and play and pretty much ignore it.
That's going to be even tougher that night. It's their Hall of Fame night, so they're going to be bringing back some.
Well, thanks for adding that.
Past, and so I'm sure it seats a couple thousand people at that gym, and it'll probably have that. It'll be packed. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to go in there and spoil that evening for them?
It absolutely would. And boys, there's a cue if you want some motivation. Yeah, go ruin Hall of Fame night at Wheeling Park, and you'll really get some press. I promise you, we'll make it happen, and not just here, but you'll get written about in papers all around the state if you do that. Not making light of it, Coach. It's a tough week. You got to take them one at a time. First of all, great opportunity for fans to get out Wednesday night to the Castle, and the boys need it more than ever. Now I know that in the last couple of games we've seen a few names that we haven't seen before, and these are youngsters that have played their way to prominence on the JV team, and now they get to sneak up and maybe get a little bit of time on the varsity bench, and even in the right situation on the floor. That kind of speaks to maybe looking a little bit down the road, but also I know how proud you are of this JV squad and what they've accomplished this season. But more than that, just their overall approach and their mood.
Yeah, Steve Felton's done a great job with the JV guys, and we've had to shuffle some kids around here and there for various reasons, but we brought up 3 freshmen from the freshman team to join in with the JV, and they've made an immediate impact. They beat the Liberty JV Friday night by about 30. They scored 80-some points, and they are really coming into their own. And these kids are going to be up. Most of them are all going to be up on the varsity level next year, and they're really going to be fun to watch. They've got an attitude to work hard, and there's a lot of kids that's going to have some bright futures that's coming.
Yeah, and it's okay to talk a little bit about the future and look down the road and think about what can be when we're sitting here a year from now, talking about, dare I say, maybe we're talking about 12-3 instead of 3-12, and I don't want to put any pressure anywhere, but it's good to see kids that want to play ball and that will get out and give the effort. And I think there's just more of that to come. And I think you've got a pretty good core group of underclassmen on the varsity right now. And with these newer faces mixing in, it seems to get a little more exciting at times when you have some of these faces on the floor. I know maybe at the varsity level, the speed of the game it takes them a little bit by surprise. I'm sure some of these youngsters, I know John Noah Lockery for one. He was one of the first players to move up from the JV and get a shot on the varsity bench and get some playing time. And it seemed like maybe he didn't realize the first couple of times he had the ball in his hand how much faster the varsity game was going to go on the floor. Once he adjusted to that, and sort of found his footing. And I think for these youngsters, it's much a case of that.
Yeah, I mean the varsity level, these kids are stronger and faster. We're in the meat of our schedule, playing top ranked teams, very well coached, very well disciplined. We get pressured a lot. We deal with the full court press every night, and we're getting much better and much better. Friday night, this past Friday night against Liberty. We go into that game averaging 22 turnovers a game, and we come out with only 8. So, we only had 8 turnovers that night. So we're getting better in all phases of the game. We're just about ready, I think, to start putting this together and turn this train down the track. But
and it doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen at a better time. As you said, coming in, you knew it was going to be a tough year. If you're going to have a turning point, why not have that turning point in the last few weeks as you get ready for tournament time and postseason play? It's almost like this regular season has sort of been the prequel and the run-up to what this team really can be all about.
Yeah, earlier on we got a stretch here, February 12th to the 20th. We don't play a game for about 8 or 9 days on the schedule unless there's any snowouts. But I didn't like that. But you know what? Now I'm loving it, because now that week we can make our final adjustments for tournament time.
Work really hard on the fundamentals.
Yeah, and the 2 games we have after that before tournaments are against the #1 overall team in the state, Fairmont Senior, and then University, the #2 team in the state, AAA. So the 2 toughest teams on our schedule, and then we're going to go in the sectional tournament the following week. So now I'm kind of like, you know what, I hope we can keep that, because that'll give us a great time to prepare, put in maybe some new looks and a little bit of a different scheme, and have plenty of time to get it down. So we're going to keep working hard. This group, we still have a couple good things to come, and we still have 7 games to go before the season's over. So, we're not going to quit by any means, and just kind of cruise through the rest of the season. We're still learning, and we're still working hard.
Okay, well, nobody can ask for any more than that. If they do, they're not going to get it. I do have to ask this, Coach, on a side note. Did you smile big when you picked up the paper and saw the University Morgantown High score. They kept it in the 40s.
Yeah, it was 47, 41.
They kind of beat on each other a little bit, back and forth. I think it was 6-6 or 7-6 at the end of the first quarter, and it was just a low-scoring affair. Meanwhile, your team is getting better at putting the ball in the basket and producing bigger numbers. That's I gotta believe that makes you grin just a little bit at this point.
Well, like I said, that week before we played University, and the week before our section, there's some new wrinkles that we're going to work on. I spent about 8 hours today watching some game film, and one of the games I watched was at University Morgantown. We'll have a game plan, and I guarantee you we will suit up and be there and ready to compete. This team has not. We haven't got blown out this year. We're in, Morgantown and University, those two games got away from us a little bit. But other than that, our difference in the games is about 6 and 7 points. And you can go back and look through, 5 or 6 games. And we Friday night, we got beat at the foul line. I mean, we only got to shoot 5 foul shots, and Liberty got to shoot 28. And they make 24 out of 28. So, they scored 20-some points at the foul line. We scored 5. It's a 5-point loss for us. We never even had a chance. We had 28 fouls called against us, and they had 7 against them. So we never even got to the foul line. All of ours were and ones. We never got in a 1-on-1. They were in double bonus both times. In the fourth quarter, they shot 14 foul shots, and we didn't shoot a 1. So we can't put ourselves in those positions to be in. We've got to work on that because, and we work on foul shots all the time. We just worked on them Saturday, but we've got to just put ourselves in position to be there at the end, and we're doing that. So it's coming.
All right. Well, hopefully the Knights can put forward a big effort on Wednesday. Need a big group of fans to come out. Let's have that 100 or more that the coach was talking about earlier in the fans, clapping and cheering right to the very end, and after the buzzer sounds, give the boys a good hand for their effort. We'll be there. There'll be a delayed telecast of Wednesday night's home game, but not too many more in the castle. So, folks, if you haven't been, let's get out there and show the boys that you support them and you love them and you want to see some good basketball, and encourage them to do that. We sure will, and then we'll have the delayed telecast here for you on Hometown TV, along with the Coach's Show, or on the YouTube channel for those who may choose to watch. And in that vein, I want to give a shout out, new feature this week, Coach. Our viewer of the week this week is going to be Mr. John Brown from Lima, Ohio, who called me up to tell me he was enjoying watching the Coach's Show and watching the games. He wished the Knights had a few more in the win column, but he's a subscriber to the YouTube telecasts, and a big Preston Knight fan, and a hometown boy, somebody I went to school with back in the day, and I'm not going to say how many years ago that was, but a good ball player in his own right at the middle school level. And so, John Mack, we thank you for watching, and we thank everybody else for tuning in. We're going to take a break right here for messages from the sponsors that bring you the Coach's Show and Preston Varsity Basketball. And coming up next, we have a segment with a guy we've been trying to track down for quite some time, varsity girls head coach Brian Miller, who's a busy, busy man. But, folks, we corralled him. We've got him in the studio. I see him over there right now in the background. We're not going to let him out the door until we get a chance to talk to him on camera. So that's coming up right after this here on your hometown TV station. Coach, thanks a lot.
Thank you, and thank you, John Mack.
Happy New Year! Kent and Melissa with Delano's Furniture and Mattress. Celebrate the new year with us by saving big on our double-sided made in West Virginia mattress sets.
Yesterday's quality meets today's technology. A mattress you can flip. It'll last you year after year. Come experience the Delano's difference.
The Delano's difference. The Delano's difference.
We also have adjustable beds.
Ed B, do you know why I stopped you? Well, your sticker is dead, wires are coming out of your tires, and I heard your brakes squealing from way back yonder. You need to get to the tire ladies, get in alignment, get the brakes put on this thing, get it inspected, and while you're there, you might as well get your oil changed. And if you don't, next time I see you, you're getting a ticket. Barney, put that bullet away.
Rainbow Tire, the tire lady takes care of me.
Brown's Mill Grocery invites you to stop by for anything you might need. If you're looking for a quick bite, Brown's Mill has buffet-style pizza, fresh subs, and cold drinks. Fill up your tank and your car's tank too with quality gasoline. Snacks, cold drinks, gasoline, anything you might need, you'll find at Brown's Mill Grocery. Brown's Mill Grocery at the corner of the Dogtown Road and Route 92. We look forward to seeing you soon at Brown's Mill Grocery. Become part of the family at Preston Family Pharmacy. It's not just their name, it's their philosophy. They treat you like family.
Whether you've just left the hospital or a routine checkup, make Preston Family Pharmacy your neighborhood pharmacy your next stop. The friendly professional staff at Preston Family Pharmacy will make sure that you get the time and attention you deserve for all your pharmacy needs. Preston Family Pharmacy is currently accepting all patients.
Preston Family Pharmacy, Route 7 across from Walmart, Kingwood. They'll take care of you like family. From humble beginnings, Stone Paving has emerged as one of the premier paving companies in the region. Stone Paving has been doing business for nearly 20 years and provides asphalt paving services to residential, commercial, and highway customers. They're pre-qualified with the West Virginia Department of Highways and have a history of meeting the most demanding schedules. Stone Paving has equipment and personnel that can complete any project, and they're committed to providing quality service at a competitive price. When you're planning your next project, call Stone Paving.
Welcome back here in the Mountain Digital Studios, and as promised, we've got Coach Brian Miller, head coach of the Lady Knights, the girls varsity program at Preston High School, with us. And Coach, it's been an exciting stretch for your Knights. Well, it's been a good season overall. And just recap a little bit for us some of the highlights up to this point that have got the Lady Knights. You've got to be excited about the upcoming postseason.
Yeah, we're on a pretty good roll right now. We broke in a lot of new players. We only had a few returning players. Everybody else was new. We got a freshman. We got lots of sophomores on varsity. You know, a junior that hadn't been on varsity before. So, you know, we had a lot of new people we had to break in, and you know, with that going on, there's a growing process, or some growing pains and a learning process and everything that you kind of got to go through to get there. But we've won 7 of our last 9, and we're moving in the right direction.
Am I remiss in pointing out that it doesn't hurt to have the all-time scorer in Preston varsity girls history?
Yeah, that
this
helps.
Season. That helps a little bit.
that helps a lot, where you can get her the ball and she'll make something happen if everything else breaks down. You know, in our game the other night, she hit that 35 foot
30.
shot.
What's her all-time record? Something like 31, 32?
32. She had 32 in the game. She had 31.
So close to a personal all-time high.
Yep.
Wow. That's
hit 30
a big night.
times.
She kind of snuck up on that. And folks, that was the Fort Hill game. If you watched it on Channel 7, or if not, jump over on the YouTube channel and watch it on demand. Exciting basketball game in the castle. Fort Hill, a team that you had trouble with early in the season, kind of beat up on you guys a little bit over there on that trip to Maryland, and you came home with a 20-point loss. You avenged that against Fort Hill, and they came in, I don't think, expecting what they got in the castle.
Yeah, they put it on us pretty good about a month ago, and you know, so we didn't score in the first quarter. I don't think we scored the first 2 or 3 minutes of the second quarter. It was probably 10 or 11 minutes into the game before we ever even scored. If I remember correctly, we still had single digits at halftime. And, you know, the 20-point loss, I knew we were better than that, so this was one game I was really looking forward to prove that we were better than we were the first time. Plus, you know, that was a month ago. So I wanted to see how much the team had improved, and we had a lot of young girls. You know, at the time, that was only their fifth varsity game ever, and you know, coming back, this being their 15th varsity game
makes a difference.
Yeah, I knew there would be some improvement with a lot of those younger ones, and I was actually excited and looking forward to seeing seeing what we would do.
A good measuring stick. Still with that, you started with an 0-7 deficit. Fort Hill got out there pretty quick, and they looked like they were going to try to come at you pretty fast and furious and take care of business early. You took a timeout at a judicious point in the first quarter. What did you say to the girls in the huddle at that point to sort of change the tempo?
Just tried to remind them that we were okay. A week earlier, the same situation had happened with Bridgeport when we got off to a really slow start, and we were down 13-5. And I talked to him in the huddle, and I said, "Look, playing wise, we haven't played bad. We haven't played any worse than them. The difference was they hit their shots. We had missed 3 layups and was 1 for 5 from the foul line at that point. And I'm like, if we make those 4 foul shots, now it's 13-9. And I said, is everybody in panic mode? Because with the same exact gameplay, just make your foul shots, it's 13-9. Make those 3 layups, now it's 15-13 us, and the whole gameplay was just the same. It was just a couple shots. And I thought we came out in the second quarter against Bridgeport and we panicked and tried to make up 12 points all at once, 10 points here, and started throwing the ball away and everything like that. So when we got down 7-0 to Fort Hill, I just, we didn't draw anything up. I just said, everybody relax, just don't panic. We've been through this before, and we've had a lot of close games lately with East Fairmont, some others that we've won at the end. And I said, this is no different, just 1 possession at a time, 2 points here, 2 points there. We'll chip away at it, and it helps when you come out and McKenzie hits a 3 right off of the inbounds. And
I was going to say, do you kind of, in those situations, do you kind of look to McKenzie first and say, let's rotate the ball to her a little more?
Yeah,
kind of get the senior in the flow of the offense a little more, and let her do her thing, and see if that kind of gets the offense ignited.
Yeah, and a lot of the younger ones too will look to her. I mean, she was second team All-State last year. The school's all-time leading scorer, a ton of 25, 30-point games. So not at all a bad person to look to for some inspiration. No, so usually out of timeouts. Usually out of timeouts, we'll try to run something for her as our first option to try to get something open, and if it's not there, we'll have some secondary options. But especially when we're struggling, she's our best shooter and everything, so we want to try to free her up for something, and everyone else will feed off of that. And after she made that 3, you could kind of see everyone else just take a deep breath and be like, okay, we're in this, and we'll go from there.
It was visible to us as we were filming the game and calling it. It just seemed visible that your team, at the point that she hit that 3 coming out of the break, everybody just sort of relaxed and said, okay, we're here to play ball, now let's do it.
Yeah, I think it was just we needed that initial basket. And once we got that, everyone's like, okay, it's not going to be like last time. Because last time, 13-0 at the end of the first quarter, they come up 7-0, and I think you get one of these, here we go again type things. So to see her make that shot, now it's 7-3, and everyone's like, okay, it's not last time, and we can relax and just play.
Fort Hill, midway through the first period, seemed really intent on getting that ball down low to their big post player, McGraw. And Nia McGraw didn't have a great game. She had her game. She got her share of points and rebounds, but she didn't have the big game that I think they were expecting her to have in the Castle. I thought the Knights did a pretty good job in denial, keeping the ball out of her hands for much of the first half especially.
Yeah, with our post, we try to front the post at all times. We want to make the other team's guards throw a perfect pass, because we think if we can front the post and we can put enough pressure on the ball that the chances are, a girl might make a perfect pass, 2 out of 10 times, 3 out of 10 times, and we might get burnt for a layup on those. But, my math isn't the greatest, but if we give up 3 layups, but 7 other times out of 10 we get a turnover, they don't get what they want, that still turns out in our favor as long as we can, capitalize on the other end. So we try to play the percentages, and I thought we did a pretty good job of fronting her and trying to keep the ball on the perimeter as much as we could. And
she clearly became frustrated as the game went on. She was out for a little bit, back in, didn't have very much more luck. It was a really close, competitive, fun to watch contest. from the standpoint of the fans who were there and folks who may watch it on the delayed telecast will see that this was an exciting up and down the floor, back and forth battle. It seesawed back and forth in scoring. You really had to battle all the way to the end and play a very complete game. And I thought that the Lady Knights did just that. How much off the bench help did you get in winning that contest, and how important was that?
We were a little short-handed. Kirsten, our second leading scorer and rebounder, had another commitment that she couldn't miss, and I didn't know that at the time. This game was supposed to be played weeks ago, and then there was a snow day, and then we had to reschedule, and we didn't realize that until a week ago. So really, we only played 7 people, but everyone played a minimum of 16 minutes. I thought everyone contributed. Those that we had in there for defense were fantastic on defense. Those that we had in there for offense, we did a lot of, especially in the second half, a lot of offense and defensive rotations going in and out in the fourth quarter.
You had a pretty, I thought, scrappy defensive game from Tori Garlitz, and at the same time on the other end of the floor she was able to hit a couple of key baskets for you when they really counted, and then you got to the line and you did pretty good at the line.
Yeah, the foul shooting, 22 for 24. That doesn't happen very often, but that was
getting much better than that, does it?
We missed one in the first, and we missed one in the fourth, and so the foul shooting will do that. Taylor was 12 for 12, Mackenzie was 8 for 8, and especially in the fourth quarter, once we got below 4 minutes, in Maryland they have a shot clock, and I think that played to our advantage because once we got to under 4 minutes, we had the ball. Well, they weren't coming out and pressure us, so I decided, let's keep it out top, make them come and get us, not to stall the ball. We didn't want to hold it. We just wanted to make the gaps and the seams a little bit bigger to give us more driving lanes. And so we tried to back up a little bit, try to make them to come to us to spread the floor, and then we were going to try to find a mismatch with somebody and let them go one-on-one and try to get to the rim and maybe get fouled. And for the first couple minutes of those possessions, Fort Hill wouldn't come out on us. I think they kept thinking in the back of their mind, well, they've only got 30 seconds to get a shot off, and then once they did that, they had to start fouling, and we tried to make a conscious effort to have Taylor and Mackenzie to have the ball as much as they could, because when you combine for 20 for 20 on the evening,
note to the SSAC, if you're listening out there, see how much more fun it is without a shot clock, so don't start thinking about one, please.
Oh, I think that'll come at some point. But we're holding it off right now.
I don't like it. I don't like what it's done to the game at any level thus far, and I especially don't like it in the high school game because I think it speeds things up way too much, and I don't think that these student athletes, and that's what they are, I don't think they need to be under those kind of time constraints and pressure. I think it's much better to be able to play a game, not a 2-4 game at the half. We're not, again, saying play stall the ball, but I think it's much better to be able to develop an offense and have them understand it, and that maybe doesn't happen in 30 seconds every time, and certainly not with the younger players. So, for what it's worth, I'll get down off the soapbox now, but don't like that idea. Glad if it got in the heads of the Fort Hill Sentinels a little bit and helped the Knights get a big victory. 2 in a row. You had an even bigger score a night earlier. Said goodbye to some seniors on senior night, and you put up 83 points, which is that's a lot of points in the castle going up, especially this year for anybody.
Ties the school record for us, for the girls. It's the second time we've gotten 83 this year, which is the school record. But I was more impressed with, we only had 3 turnovers the entire game, which is a school record. With the previous best was 5 turnovers.
Part of the reason you get to put points on the board, you don't give the ball away. And the Lady Knights did a good job against Liberty. We had picked Fort Hill when it was rescheduled for the TV game. Wish we had been there for senior night as well. Not to take away from any of the young ladies, but I know the girls picked senior night a while back. And
Yeah.
they chose Liberty because they thought that might be a fun night in the castle, and
Well,
evidently it turned out to be.
In Preston County, you know, if you look at our regular schedule before the snow days, we had Liberty on Thursday, and then we have RCB next week, which was our last home game. And in living in Preston County, you don't want to have your last home game a senior night, because if the weather is not friendly and it gets snowed out and there's a chance it doesn't get made up, then
There's
the
no
kids,
way to reschedule.
so
it.
we always try to do senior night with at least one more game on the schedule in case there's a snow day. We have a backup day. So that's how that kind of worked out. Now after we had scheduled that, then you know some snow days in the Fort Hill game. But
I
yeah,
don't think the distractions, and not that they're real big distractions. Certainly you want to honor your seniors, and certainly they want to go out big on senior night as well. But at the same time, I don't think the trappings that surround a senior night maybe would have been the right environment to pull off that win over Fort Hill in the manner that it happened. I thought your team was laser focused. Maybe getting senior night out of the way was a good idea early, because now they can just buckle down and focus on what you already know they know how to do, and that's play some pretty good basketball.
Yeah, and I'm becoming a more and more fan of that, because senior night gets pretty emotional for some of them, and even in the Liberty game, the first quarter, we couldn't make anything. Shots weren't falling, we didn't shoot very well, and it was later on in the game that we started to hit shots and do everything. And you know, it was nice for that, because when you get a big lead like that, then you know the fourth quarter you can take them out one at a time and you know give them all one last moment to come off by themselves and let the crowd, you know, hopefully thank them and give them an ovation for their work over the years and everything like that. So I'm a big fan of that, being able to do that, and we were able to do that, so that was nice. And then you know you take them out one at a time, then you put the younger ones in, kind of as a symbol of passing the torch off to the next group and everything like that. And you know the Liberty game allowed us to get a lot of those younger ones in and let them get some experience, which will help down the road.
Coach, I know you put a lot of thought and effort into all aspects, and even the off-court aspects of the contest, and you try to make it entertaining for the fans, which I think you do. You try to make it fun for the girls as much as you try to make it serious, and make it be about hard-nosed basketball and knowing how to win and bring those games home. Very important. But forgive me, 10 years? For your tenure so far as head coach?
No, longer than that.
Longer than that.
Trying to think. My first 2 years there, I was an assistant JV coach from 99 to 01. So 01, 02, I think might have been the first year, or 02,
Okay,
03.
yeah, much more than 10 years.
It's been a long time. I can't keep track. I had a lot more hair back then. And
well, as did we
that's
all.
Let's
not go there. Let's not go there.
Remember.
But I mean, you're a busy guy. You're a busy coach because you're dedicated to that team year round. I know that. You have coached other interests as well over the years at Preston High. You've got, and at the same time, you're a good family man, and you've got a daughter coming up, and I know you spend a lot of time working with her and playing with her and doing the dad things that you need to do with her. How do you fit it all in?
You know, it's tough, but we try to make it work as best we can. I try to schedule as much as I can around everything. You know, she's playing in a league, and you know, I don't make it to all those. You know, I missed a half of one this year a couple weeks ago because we had a game, and I didn't get there in time for the first half. But I think last year I missed a game or two. But I try to do as much as I can, and then sleep when I can when nobody's around. But you know, you try to give everybody an experience and make it something. They may not understand now, but hopefully they'll look back down the road and say like, yeah, that was pretty fun, or that wasn't too bad. So just try to help everybody else get that and get a positive experience as best as you can. And
I bring this up and talk about the history a little bit to say this. People talk about turning things around when a team's had down times, doing things the right way, doing the right things for kids that are students first and athletes second, running a team the right way. And in particular, I would hold you up as an example of a coach that has cared enough about his students and his athletes to do it the right way, and at the same time, you have built a program at Preston High that just seems to be getting a little better each year, a little better each year. Obviously, hopefully, when we do our jobs right, we all get better at what we do. And I know it's tough. You've got new kids coming in every year. You've got kids you say goodbye to every year, and you have to plot and plan and strategize who goes where, who fits in, how do I do this next, how do I do this without. But now with the perspective of enough history, fair to say that you've established credibility with girls basketball at Preston High to the point that maybe they're ready to take another step up?
Well, we try. I mean, we're to the point now where our down years now are better than our good years when I first took over. In the beginning, and our good years are the years that we haven't seen. So hopefully we can keep that going. I try to make sure they have a positive experience and it's fun as much as we can and everything like that. But sometimes I don't always make the best decisions or right decisions, but you try to learn from them and move on. And
sometimes you got to yell.
You do the best you can. Yeah, you do the best you can and try to keep everything moving. But with the program getting better, in 2001 we'd only won 2 games a year for several years, and then we slowly got up. And then I remember the first time we won 7 games in a year, and I was like, it was like sky high, fantastic. And now we're 10-5, and this was supposed to be a down year with all we had lost last year and everything like that. So hopefully we can keep raising the bar. But with all that going on, I'm the least important person of the puzzle. I'm the smallest piece of the puzzle. The kids are the ones that go out there and play. I'm just a guy that I tell them stands on the sideline and tries to cheer and sometimes yell and look like an idiot and everything like that. But they're the ones that got to put in the work in the summer. I learned a long time ago, it doesn't matter how much I know or how much I don't know. It only matters what they know and don't know and what they're capable of doing.
And how hard
they're willing to work. So,
sure.
The assistant coaches, we've done a good job this year of bouncing ideas off of each other and using them in a game and tweaking things here or there. And then, the players are the ones that they got to do it in the off season when I'm not allowed to be around them, and during the 3 weeks. They're the ones that put in the time. They're the ones out there shooting. Really, I tell them, once the game starts, most of it at that point is pretty much out of my hands. I might be able to call a timeout here or there, but they've got to do it. And I always tell people, teams are made November through February. When you're in season, that's when you work on the team aspect. But players are made from February to November, and that's when we're not allowed to have, we're not allowed to do things.
You got 3 weeks.
So, it's really up to them. So the reason we've gotten better and, we've been ranked in the top 10, for several years, the last couple years, and, what was supposed to be a down year, right now we're doing pretty well. That's got to go to them. They're the ones putting in the work, and then I'm just the one that gets to sit on the sideline and get some benefits of when they do things well, and when things don't go well, try to shoulder the blame for them and as much as I can.
An opportunity now to speak to those youngsters out there who may be coming up from the middle school ranks next year and coming to Preston High as freshmen. What do you encourage those young ladies to do in terms of getting ready if they decide that they want to be student-athlete basketball players at Preston High? What do they do as soon as school's out?
My main thing, I tell them, and I stat everything. I've got notebooks upon notebooks of every high school game we've played in the last 17 years and some other teams and this or that. And the 2 stats that I've found, at least with high school girls, that determine winning and losing more times than not is shooting percentage and turnovers. I've had lots of games where I've out-rebounded the other team and lost. And last year's team, it was kind of a joke with the rebounding stat with us. Every game we would go into, just try to keep the rebounding close. Just try to keep it close, because let our shooting percentage. Now this year we're a little bit different. This year we're winning different ways. This year we're winning with offensive rebounding, and our shooting percentage aren't as good. So I'm not discrediting any of the others, because if it wasn't for offensive rebound and foul shooting this year, we wouldn't be 10-5. That has won us a lot of games. But typically, if you get the offensive rebound and put it back up and make it, that leads to a better shooting percentage. So the one thing I always try to tell the younger kids are shoot and dribble, regardless of your height, regardless of your position. I go to coaching clinics, almost every year that Nike puts on, and they'll bring in Coach K, Bob Knight, Jim Boeheim, Bob Huggins, John Beeline. I can't even count the numbers. And
Bob Knight is there to teach you a really good chair throw on the occasion.
No, let me tell you what, he was one of the most knowledgeable guys.
Oh, there's no doubt.
He was so smart and funny. Billy Donovan, we got a lot of, and they're the nicest people. Like, I met Billy Donovan, was asking him questions, and he's like, I got to go catch a flight. Here's my secretary's number. Call me anytime. Call her anytime you want.
Wow.
Tell her what we'll send you film of our practices.
Yeah.
But anyway, the one time we went, Gino Auriemma was there, and I kind of believe this, and this is what I tell kids, but I didn't take it. It's him. He recruits players and he teaches players, all his players, to play like a guard. He doesn't care if they're 6'10". Well, girls aren't going to be 6'10", but whatever, 6'5", 6'6", or 6 foot. He wants them all to learn guard skills, because then he's going to have a mismatch somewhere. You can bring that girl out away from the basket, and he works on guard skills. Everyone works on shooting. Everyone works on passing. And I've noticed a lot of times, by the time the girls get to me, the ones that may not make it, or may make it but don't get to play a lot, may be the ones that in 3rd grade were the tallest kid on their team. So they were told, just go stand under the basket. Go stand on the block. And then that's all they ever did.
Got to have more fundamentals than that.
And then they haven't grown since the 6th grade. And then, so they'll come to me and they're like, well, I'm a center. And I'm like, you're 5'6". You're no longer a center. You're a guard. And they're like, well, I've never dribbled before. And I'm like, that's
a problem.
So if I'm talking to the younger kids, and, last year I helped out with the Grasshopper and everything like that. And the one thing we try to do is make every kid dribble in practice, in a game, whether they were considered center, considered our guard. We want everyone to dribble with both hands, and we want everybody to shoot. Because, especially with shooting, you don't have to have have higher athleticism than someone else to be a shooter. I mean, if you're 6'7", and the other one's 5'11", that 6'7" is going to have some advantages here or there. But if you can shoot, you can shoot. And anybody can
learn how to do it.
Anybody can do it, but it's not one of those things you just can't wake up one morning and say, "Oh, I think I'm going to be a good shooter today." There's no pill you can take. There's nothing you can, lotion you can rub on your hands and they start going in all of a sudden.
It's hard work, kids. Hard work.
I
know that's foreign to
and I tell the kids
a lot of things that people hear nowadays, but you don't learn how to be a good dribbler or a good shooter because you can do it on the PlayStation.
And I tell kids, it's no different than math class. It's no different than science class. If you're working on some new concept in math, well, you're only going to get better at that by doing those math problems.
You get out of it.
You go into the test. If you haven't studied for that math test or that English test, you're probably going to struggle. If you studied and put in the time, you're going to ace that test. And shooting is the same way. If you go out and you don't shoot ever, then when you get into the game or you move up, you're not going to be that good of a shooter. If you go out and shoot 100, and really, honestly, we have dribbling drills. Take 6 minutes a day. 30. You do each drill for 30 seconds. 6 minutes a day is it. And we have a shooting tree that we do with our team that we're very big on and try to get a lot of shots up. If you have a rebounder, you can do that shooting tree in 20, 25 minutes. If you don't have a rebounder and you've got to go get your own rebound and go back to spot, maybe 40, 45 minutes. And really, that's all it takes. It doesn't take 5 hours. Now, if a girl wants to go out and shoot 5 hours a day, I'm not going to tell her not to. But it doesn't take 5 hours a day.
But then she's probably not going to pass math class.
Well, yeah, and we got to make sure the math class.
You are a student and an athlete at Preston High, and both those things.
But in
equally
the summer,
important.
But in the summer, spend 6 to 10 minutes a day on dribbling, and dribble with both hands, your right hand, your left hand, and spend a half hour to 40 minutes a day of shooting, and that'll get most people to be successful on the high school level. Now in college, the height starts to come in, the athleticism comes in.
Here's an old chestnut, and I don't know if it's still true. Something a coach told me more years ago than I'm willing to admit. But he said, if you can take a basketball and go find a concrete wall or a block wall somewhere, and dribble that basketball off the wall, not off the ground, but off the wall, until you can make figure eights.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do it with your right hand, learn how to do it with your left hand. Or if you're left-handed, learn how to do it with your right hand. And when you can do those two things, and you don't have to stare at the ball to do it, then you can say you're a pretty good dribbler. I don't know if that's an exercise that is worth much, but there are a lot of little things.
Coach Sanders was always big on that. He would always talk about that.
I heard that even before I met Barry Sanders, and boy, I'm really old.
Yeah.
But kids, the focus is, if you want to be a ball player at Preston High, work hard in the summer, get outside, put the effort into it, and it's got rewards. And come out to a game, and I know there are just a few left in the castle, but come out to a game, and after the game, walk up to the player you thought did the best job and ask them how hard they worked in the summer to get ready to do that.
There's usually a good correlation between the ones that are their favorite players and do the best with how much work they put in. And with our girls right now, even with all the younger ones, that's one thing they've had to learn over the last year, is how much time's got to come in. But you can see they've been putting in time, and it's starting to get better, and they're learning. The other night I couldn't have been more happy, with Chesney's defense. Her defense was spot on, and she made a lot of great plays on defense. Leah is coming along and getting better.
She was absolutely a wall in there defensively in the paint. She owned it.
And her willingness to learn right now, she's just trying to soak everything in she can. She's gotten better every single game. Kylie's been a JV varsity girl. As a sophomore who we started the other night in Kirsten's place. She's doing a good job. Tori, she took a year off. She's started to get it coming right now, and she's playing some of the best basketball I've ever seen her play. We got Michelle's the freshman, and she's got the speed and athleticism, and she's learning, and she does all the hustle stuff right now, and she's doing good. So you got our seniors, Taylor, Mackenzie, and Taylor, who right now are doing the bulk of our scoring and the bulk of the other thing. But each game, we're starting to put more shoulders on Kylie and Tori and Chesney and Michelle and Leah to go with those three seniors. We're starting to put more on those 5 shoulders, and they're responding great. And then even we've been able to get in a couple games. Sam Wiles and Macy Roy, 2 other sophomores who are starting. We're starting to feel more comfortable and put more things on their shoulders. So I've been very pleased with the progression that we've made up to this point.
Sounds like the Lady Knights are peaking at just about the right time. Late season, because I know your playoffs start a week earlier than the boys do. Everything's accelerated a little bit, or
3 weeks, something like that.
I don't know. But you're winding down in February here, and you get into postseason play before long. I'd like to have you back after the last regular season match, if we can. Talk a little bit about the prospects for postseason play, and you'll know then a little bit more about where you're seated and who you're going to be playing when.
In our section, I don't know if it matters. We got the toughest section in the state, so everyone's going to be tough. Whoever gets who.
But right now, the big challenge coming up Monday night in the castle. Folks, come out, have a good time. That's the whole thing about it. You come out, put your money on the table, buy a 50-50 ticket. You might win it back. Come in and sit down in the castle and enjoy some good basketball. And I guarantee you will have fun. And
if it's like it was Friday night, I even thought to myself during the game, like while it was being played, I thought to myself, I was like, man, this has got to be a great game for the fans to watch, because it was up and down, back and forth, like you said earlier. No team, except for our final margin of victory in their beginning of the game, no team led by more than 3 or 4 points till the fourth quarter.
No, very, very exciting game. Very good TV game. We really appreciate that, Coach.
I watched it yesterday morning.
If you can engineer close ones but continue to win, keep that up. No, we want the Lady Knights to win by as much as they can, and we hope to be there along the way. We'll be there Monday night. We'll have a delayed telecast of the UHS game. Good luck with that one, and we look forward to talking to you again as we get a little closer to the end of the regular season. And we thank you for coming into the studio. I know how busy you are, and we thank you for taking time to do that.
Well, we appreciate it. I will make sure I try to get all the girls recognition and get their name out there and stuff, because they work hard and they deserve it. So anything I can do to help publicize them and get their names out there, and I'm pretty sure I got them all in tonight, so I'm very happy about that.
All right. Well, you've heard it here from the coaches tonight, and we hope that you've enjoyed this edition of the Coaches Show. We thank you once again for tuning in here on Atlantic Broadband Cable Channel 7 on your hometown TV station, or out there on the internet on the YouTube channel. We thank you so much, and until we see you next time, we say good night.